Checkpoint!
What's up?
What's up, man?
Where's your camera? Wait, they didn't give you a camera for tonight? Huh?
No.
Remember your hand was shaking that day? Why is your hand shaking so much? Because you know it's weird what you're doing? Your hand is literally shaking. Was your hand tired?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I got one more question though.
Okay.
You're paid every hour you're there, correct?
I'm paid.
Every deputy, every sergeant, every lieutenant that's been on Veterans Row is paid every hour they're there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's your point, Senate?
There was a post, her name's Jessica Measles or something like that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh.
I don't know.
She posted that you guys need funding because and donations. But you guys are all paid, right? No one's donating their time. You've never been there, you're not paid, or you're not on the clock, right?
No.
Okay, got it. Just making sure. Thank you.
Shout out Mr. Checkpoint. Hey, FTP. There's killers up in these streets. Always film the police. Gotta be our own keepers of peace. Gotta police the police. Gotta police the police.
Oh, okay. That's what I am.
Do you have an actual...
Yeah, of course. This ain't my first rodeo.
Do you have an actual media credential?
This is, of course. Because it's not laminated and on my neck doesn't mean it's not actual credential. Just FYI.
Oh, you can sit right there, sir.
You just said that's media.
No, this is right here for us.
Excuse
You can
me?
sit right there.
But I have cameras. Can I set them up there?
You can sit up right here, sir. Right here.
David Hockney. How are you? Do you have the tax exemption information for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Foundation?
I'm sorry, do I have what?
The tax exemption information
Do I have it? Yeah, we're
for donors. I know. No, I donated. I donated. I was wondering if I could get the tax exemption ID. Sir? All right.
They scoop them up, off to the morgue they go, in another unclaimed body. Most of them from overdose or medical conditions that can be resolved if they have medical attention. So anybody who says that the most compassionate thing is not to do anything, you're full of it. I can tell you that right now. Getting people off the street and in shelter, number one thing that's gonna do is gonna give them about 30 more years of life expectancy, just 30. Life expectancy on the street is written in the 40s. You know, while the average life expectancy of someone with a house and access to medical care is in the high 70s. That's a huge discrepancy there. Life goes in fast forward when you live on the streets. When you're living day to day, handout to handout, and you're barely making by with food and shelter, the next rung up on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is safety, security. You need that to thrive. Did I get your line right there, Jeff? He's real good at that. We have to provide that. When we do that, when we're working in collaboration, law enforcement and all the service providers, Now we can start actually doing that outreach, we can start connecting. So let's be serious here. Let's focus on fixing what we have right here, turn off the welcome sign, get the help, build up the capacity to treat residential treatment for mental health, big ticket item. That's the board of supervisors, that's the governor's job, and the state legislator. That's not a responsibility for the city. It needs to happen. It's not. We're actually losing hospital beds to treat mental health. That's a sad state of affairs. Yes, we need to improve our shelter capacity for sure, and all those services that we need to provide, the counseling, job placement, all that good stuff. That needs to happen. But at the end of the day, we have to start matching the resource with the need, and the people who do not want to accept that, we have to definitely show them there's a way out of Los Angeles County. In other words, the old phrase, beggars cannot be choosers, it applies, okay? So let's be smart about this. We can make this happen. It takes decisive action and not death by analysis or paralysis by analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I also want to address that a lot of the questions and reservations that we received, the RSVPs, actually came from so many communities outside of Brentwood. So I really want to acknowledge them so that this room understands what we mean when we say that we are in fact more powerful when we are one voice. We received RSVPs from as far as Pasadena, Rancho Park, Palisades, Venice, Playa Vista, Westchester, obviously Brentwood. But I just want you to realize the scope and depth of these problems and issues that are going to come up tonight, that these are not just Brentwood problems or Venice problems, that this is probably citywide issues. And I actually do hope that we can set an example tonight for other council districts to actually come together and act as a single voice in the hopes to move the needle in the right direction. The other thing I want to bring up as we start to go through questions, some of these questions were sent in. I want to just put in a disclaimer, these questions are not the opinions of any one organization here tonight. They are not the opinions of the Brentwood Homeowners Association. So I am merely fielding the questions that we have received. Since we do know we have a lot of Brentwood stakeholders here tonight, I would like to start with the San Vicente encampment. I will ask each side, please, if you wouldn't mind keeping the answers as succinct as possible. So that we can really ensure that we get to all the questions.
The commitment of our Chief of Police, Chief Michael Moore, and the 9,490 officers who proudly wear this uniform has never been stronger as a commitment to your public safety. Law enforcement should be the last resort in interacting with our homeless communities. We cannot paint the homeless population with a broad brush. That is far too easy, it's far too elitist, and we as Angelenos and as Americans are better than that. Law enforcement should be part of a collaborative effort in dealing with our homeless populations. We are one of many partners, and you see those partners here today, dedicating their time and effort and interest in being with you here tonight. So it would be far too easy to say that the homeless crises we face in Los Angeles can be solved with the Los Angeles Police Department or any law enforcement agency. Wraparound services, help for those with substance abuse, alternatives to different forms of housing, ways in which mental health outreach can take place early, not waiting for an encampment 2, 3, 4, 5 years to be entrenched in a community. The ability to meet people where they are, drive up to that curb, do a triage, be it medical, be it psychiatric, be it psychological, whatever that is, that has to be part of the solution, because it is far too easy to say putting handcuffs on somebody and creating a revolving door of tickets and arrests is the only way that we can deal with this issue. So when we ask what can you do for all of us, we need advocacy. We need the ability and concentrated voices to let our elected officials and those beyond the sound of this voice of mine to understand and know that we need advocacy for increased mental health services. We need increased support for substance abuse intervention and help. And we need to not paint the homeless population with one broad brush, because many people in our communities are one paycheck or two paychecks away from finding themselves in that same situation. As the sheriff mentioned, we have people dying on our streets. We have people that are in need of some type of intervention, and it is not necessarily someone wearing this uniform. We want to be there to provide safety and support for those who are administering services, but we are just one prong in that larger solution. So I ask you here today in closing to please help us. Please know that we are here with you. We are here to support you. Our colleagues in the Sheriff's Department, we have great respect for. They partner with us in so many ways beyond what we are here so importantly to discuss tonight. And we are privileged to have them as our law enforcement partners. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so this is Douglas, who lives in the 4th tent inside the VA now. And Douglas posed a very good question, which I think a lot of us have, is that we know that we've raised a lot of money through propositions. And why did it take so long, and where does the money go to give people the help that they need and they deserve? So, I don't know, I'm sure it goes to a lot of people, but
I'd like to word in my own words.
I like that. Yeah.
okay.
We're between Beverly Hills and Brentwood. We have the richest property in California. And the property the VA has got to be worth $3 trillion. They have 100-year-old trees in there, for God's sakes. Where's all the money? Where does it all go? Law enforcement is wonderful. You guys are wonderful. I applaud you. And I think about you every day. I talk to a lot of you law enforcement, and I love you all. But we need help. We got a problem. We got 11,400 veterans on the street still. And we have 150,000 homeless. We got a problem.
Okay, let's get the answer.
Thank you.
I can tell you this. From 2011 to 2021, the County of LA, in combination with the city, spent, to the best of our accounting, $6.5 billion on homeless initiatives in the span of 10 years. And the homeless population grew from 39,000 to over 80,000. That's more than a 100% increase and $6.5 billion. You are right on the money asking, where did all that money go? That's a question I want answered. In fact, let's do this. Let's do something unique. Where's my Instagram Live? Let's rotate that. Let's see the crowd here in the audience. I want the people watching on Instagram to see this, because I'm going to pose a question to the Board of Supervisors. They need to answer your question.
He's talking about the
They're the ones.
The VA, right? The federal VA.
They collected the money. They spent the money. Where did it go? What did we get from what they spent? We want to know all the same questions. So you're right on the money, sir, and we're going to get those answers. So the reason why I had a full view of this crowd here, because the Board of Supervisors yesterday said it was unsafe to do a public hearing for the Board of Supervisors. Do you folks feel unsafe? No. I've seen stadiums full of raging fans screaming, and that's okay according to the public health officer. So why is the board not holding a public meeting, and why are they not answering his question? So let's get some hashtags going, and it's directed to all 5 supervisors. And if we want to start auditing things that really matter, let's audit where that money went.
All right, I'm going to do a question over here that we have received with regards to the VA. One of the questions is, how will you prevent the tents from coming back? What if they come back on Wall Street east of Federal? Whose jurisdiction is the sidewalk west of the 405 to San Vicente on Wall Street Boulevard? What would prevent individuals from moving from one encampment in one part of the city to another?
Well, that was more than one question in the same thing.
So we'll start with the first one. Good evening, I'm Lt Geoffrey Deedrick, and I oversee the Sheriff's Homeless Outreach Services team. And to the first question, the sidewalk in front of the VA is LA County property. And the responsibility for that sidewalk falls on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And I think there's been a lot of misinformation throughout the time, caused by the times that we're in. But that sidewalk is our responsibility. And I'm here to tell you too that our partners in the Los Angeles Police Department, they've worked collaboratively with us since day one. Billy Brockway is my counterpart. Billy, say hi. We work together to try to find solutions because this sidewalk is unique. It's a great distance from any sheriff station. And so it's not like someone can get in their car, drive around the corner, and there it is. And so our West Hollywood station has patrol cars that it's about 16 minutes to get to that sidewalk. It's important that we maintain this sidewalk because if it's maintained, you'll never see enforcement. And so the maintenance effort is going to be a collaboration continuing what we just finished with the Sheriff's Department, St. Joseph's, Los Angeles Police Department, if need be, because we can't get there, and then the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. So we will be maintaining it. And we need the resources from the supervisor's office, and that's what we're working through today. But there is one thing I want to do right now, and I know he was mentioned earlier, but I want Manny Lopez to stand up. This man has worked tirelessly for 18 months on that sidewalk as a peer counselor for the VA. I'm surprised he's still here because I don't know how you've worked as hard as you have. But you're a true hero, and we just want to say thank you. And then secondly, Rob Reynolds, stand up, please. Rob was an advocate that's been there for a long time, and we met Rob a few years ago. And so I wanted to publicly say thank you for your partnership. Your heart was in the right place. You should be proud of the work that you did, and evidenced by Doug back there. Your heart was in it. Although we may not agree all the time, the fact that you're an honest broker, I respect that, and we want to thank you.
I'm Adina Frank. I'm a resident of Brentwood. I know that we're all looking for solutions that are humane. Has anyone considered opening up the many military bases that are closed to house homeless people and to provide services? It would seem to me that the infrastructure is there, the kitchens, the dining rooms, the showers, the beds, even medical facilities. We have the Army Corps of Engineers. Why can't they be refitted and used to house and help people get on their feet?
Great question.
I can tell you this, there's a lot of resources out there that we can use and we should be using. Here's another number you may be unfamiliar with. There's approximately 90,000 vacant apartment units in LA County as we speak. There's entire complexes that sit vacant, brand new, as we speak. And the reasons why, I'll let you fill in the blanks on that, but I can guarantee you this, we can't have developers in that industry dictate the nature of our communities and literally starve out to get that best rent possible while people are living in squalor right at the base of their own buildings. It doesn't make sense. So let's work together, and eminent domain is something that I'm not afraid to use, although that's a charge of the board, the city council, to do that. It's a legislative process. But let's be creative. Same thing with the bases. We got the secretary of the VA to show up at San Vicente. That was a big help right there, because all of a sudden we got through some red tape that was going on with the VA itself, and little bit of tension, you shine some spotlight onto something, all of a sudden people have an interest in seeing that the job gets done. Same thing with our military bases. There's a lot of resources that are available, a lot of housing that sits vacant. In fact, Los Alamitos, they plot over entire housing complexes that are no longer used for the military. And they're building other things that are in place. So there's a lot of acreage out there. There's a lot of vacant parcels in LA County. Between the city and the county of LA, they have over 1,300 properties, built and unbuilt, that could be used in the places that we need them to be. To put shelter space, safe campsites, sanctioned safe RV parking, with all the trash removal and the wraparound services, and actually a place where we could get service providers to go to one location and find a bunch of people in need versus running all over the place trying to find one person there, two under the bridge, and so forth, which really makes them not very effective or efficient at what they're doing. So there's definitely room to improve the operation, but we need to have everybody sit down, check their egos at the door, come to the table, show, okay, these are the resources I got, let's figure out how to make it work to everyone's advantage.
I'm going to bring up a question that came up here. I'm going to read it to you. It says here, what are we doing to implement programs for those who are mentally impaired or on drugs and unable to take care of themselves? How and where are these mental health care issues being addressed? Is there a follow-through after an initial treatment? Is it possible to find out if people have been dumped from other cities or states and have lost contact with their families?
I'm Lieutenant Ryan Vienna from the Sheriff's Department. I oversee the Sheriff's Department's mental evaluation team. Similarly deployed, as Doug outlined, I have 34 co-response units, and I work in partnership with the Department of Mental Health here in the county. Everybody that my team is paired up with is a licensed clinical social worker, psychiatrist, registered nurse, marriage family therapist, and they co-respond throughout the county to be able to assist people who are experiencing crisis or may have a known or underlying mental health issue. Those teams all dress down. They're not uniform patrol. They're also in patient-centric vehicles. All of those vehicles are unmarked because we know what it is to respond to homes where they have loved ones who may have underlying mental health issues. This is the assignment the sheriff put me in is personal. My brother-in-law is homeless and he's an addict. And he has mental health issues. And so as I sit here today in the role that I fulfill and support the mission that the host team does as well by sending my clinicians and my specially trained deputies out to do the work that he does throughout the county, you realize what it is to have a loved one when my wife gets the phone call, as we have, when my brother-in-law has overdosed and Narcan has brought him back, and you try to get him to services, and then he's not staying in services, and then he's back out again, all to try to find these linkage providers that we talk about. And the cycle continues even with support. The sheriff also implemented recently something called the Special Alert. And the Special Alert is something wherein our personnel families can actually notify us, homeless or not, if you have an address that we can actually attach to a person and you can call. What ends up happening is our personnel will become aware that there may be someone staying at that location with a known or suspected mental health issue. And when that call for service comes in, that special alert comes up and is voiced. The dispatchers actually voice that so that that deputy and those first responders know. Case in point, if you had someone that was autistic who lived in your home, or someone who had sensory disorders, those responding deputies would know that you had someone there to be able to tailor their response, and that may mean shutting down their lights and sirens before they get there, so that we are mindful and we are smart when we come to do what we do, what you guys trust us to do. Thank you.
I know that Kathleen has someone in the audience with a question.
Well, my question is, will there be an effort to let the veterans that now somehow we think is okay to sleep in tents on that property, will there be an effort to put them and allow them to live there as a home as they once did? And I understand there's many abandoned buildings on that property. So what efforts and who's going to make those efforts to allow veterans to call the VA property a home?
Excellent question.
Well, obviously that would be talks that were had, and a lot of it included the sheriff talking with the executives there at the VA, was that there were things that they could do to improve. So I won't speak for the VA because I think that would be out of turn. But what I do know is we have seen a movement, right? We've seen an improvement, and we've seen a desire by the VA to address those issues. And so I don't want to speak out of line, but I do know that from our time being there, is that they have shown the willingness. They listen to the strategies that we put forth. When the sheriff had the meetings with them, those things then changed. And so, while I can't answer that one exactly for you, I do think there has been a different will now, because they did work collaboratively with us tremendously, but I don't think I can answer to your expectation.
One thing that I can say that has improved is a commitment from the VA to extend their intake hours. There was notoriously Monday through Friday bankers hours. Now they're agreeing to extend that. I don't know if we're at the 24/7 market, Robert. I think you would. Where are we at on that?
Right now they show up inside the unit tonight. We're supposed to let them in 6 to 9 and let them corrections once, and then we're starting to hire more staff overnight. So it's in process.
Okay, that is healthy. That means they're following through on the commitment the VA administrators made with me. So these are positive steps. I think there was we had 30, 33, and 10 were the breakdown for the people that moved inside, the ones that actually took shelter, ones with Operation Room Key. So we had not everyone's at the same location, so we had a breakdown of those 73, and then the last 10 were the ones that went inside the fence. There we go. So the number, obviously it's not the most desirable destination, but it's an improvement over the sidewalk, and we will, hopefully that'll be a stepping stone to get them into more secure housing and then the support that they need.
Sheriff, did I correctly understand your statement that your office does have the ability to offer shelter to homeless people who are in violation of 41.18, and so that if you found someone who is in violation of 41.18 because they are camped in the middle of a sidewalk or they're in the street, that you could offer them housing and thereafter issue a citation to them to enforce the statute?
Actually, no. 4118 is a city ordinance for the city to enforce, not for the county to enforce. Can we do that if we needed to? Yes. However, by their own actions of the city council, they've gutted their own policy. So actually taking someone to court on that, and I know the city attorney can explain it, you really got nowhere to go because the legislative intent has been defeated by the very nature of how they wrote the section. There are other LA city municipal codes that are valid and work. In fact, we have 88 municipalities in LA County, and every single one has a municipal code. Our department, we provide patrol service to 42 of those contract cities, and we actually enforce their municipal codes. So they have variations of exactly what you're talking about. We do enforce it, it does work, but it requires then, if it's a municipal code, it's gonna be the city attorney is the one that has to represent the case in court. And the DA used to, but now that we have the new DA and they're basically not doing a whole lot of anything when it comes to misdemeanor crimes. So that puts us in a very precarious position to enforce those type of things.
Jessica Rogers, President of the Pacific Palisades Residents Association. I want to say that I'm really happy to be here tonight, seeing you both on both sides here tonight, that you are my absolute favorite officials in this entire city. Both sides of you, thank you so much for the work that you do. We want to have a lot more of all of you in our entire city and county. And what I'd like to ask is, as a member of the Pacific Palisades, we have a Pacific Palisades Task Force on Homelessness that has been extremely successful and somewhat models a little bit the HOST program. But here's the question, is how do we recreate that program all over the city of LA? The HOST program's doing it all over LA County. You need to be doing this all over every single part of LA City, and how do we support you in that?
Thank you very much. I'll begin and then I'll turn it over to Captain Tom. But the Pacific Palisades Task Force is a perfect example of what community and police collaboration can accomplish. And we're talking everything from looking at fire dangers to looking at a humanitarian approach to those who are choosing to live and stay in the hillsides, which is not healthy for them, it's not healthy for the community, and it creates larger risks for all people involved. So you're absolutely right. The Pacific Palisades Task Force is a model that should and could be replicated elsewhere. I think the generosity of the Palisades community, the unselfishness of the Palisades community has helped to make that the success and the sustaining success that it is, from getting us all-terrain vehicles, that we can get access to those areas of the Palisades that are very vulnerable to fire dangers, as are our canyons, for example, in Hollywood and elsewhere. So I would love to see that replicated. I would love to take you and the task force and Captain Tom anywhere in the city, especially in areas that are similarly vulnerable, and see what we can do to get that impetus to move forward, because I think there is such huge value in it.
We realize that there are so many more questions that we have both in the audience, and I tell you I have sheets of questions that were sent in. What we can ask everybody here is if you can please email your questions to info@brentwoodhomeowners.org, and we will work as quickly and as efficiently as we can to get answers to those questions from those that have the answers. I just want to thank everybody who is here with us this evening from the Los Angeles Sheriff Department, from LAPD, thank you so much, from our agencies, from LASA, Sanitation, St. Joseph's, from the VA, City Attorney's Office, Parks and Recreation. We thank you all so much. We thank everybody in the community. We are all in one, and as we said, we are so stronger when we come together as one voice. Thank you all for being here tonight, and we hope we can do this again soon. Sheriff or Chief Grimala, thank you so much. Thank you. If there's anything else you'd like to say before we thank you all.
One thing I want to say is to thank you and the organization for bringing everybody together. Wonderful opportunity, but this is something I've never mentioned publicly, but it was a story that indicates our commitment. When we went to the Venice Boardwalk, there was a lot of naysayers. Oh my God, what are you doing there? And our host team started doing what they always do, which is reaching out, building relationships, started doing their assessment. And they saw a service provider had popped up those pop-up tents, put 2 of them up in the middle of the Strand, and they had their picnic tables and their chairs, and they had their clipboards, and they were just waiting for, I guess, a homeless individual to go to them, and nothing was happening at all. Just the seagulls going by, that was it. Lt Geoffrey, with the host team, they marched and convinced the homeless from the pop-up tents, one by one, 40 of them, they took them to that pop-up, the Easy Up, to talk to the service provider. That's commitment right there. And they did it so they could be successful. And that's something we've never mentioned publicly, but that's the degree of our commitment. It doesn't matter who has a credit. The fact is we need to get the job done. So let's all work together to do just that.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Shout out Mrcheckpoint, AFTP. There's killers up in these streets. Always film the police. They keep feeding us to the beast. Always film the police. They kill us up in these streets. Always film the police. Gotta be our own keepers of peace. Gotta police the police. Gotta police the police.